أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم أخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمنا بنور الفهم، وافتح علينا بمعرفة العلم وسهل أخلاقنا بالحلم، واجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. اللهم اجعل أعمالنا خالصة لوجهك ولا تجعل فيها حظا لغيرك. وصل اللهم على سيدنا ونبينا ولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين، والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. كيف حالكم؟
وعليكم السلام.
Again, sorry for the delay, man. We were busy with our Nahwu, but as we usually do, we just quickly revise our soft skills بإذن ta'ala. So everybody can say it together بإذن الله. Bismillah. فعل يفعل تفعيلا مفعل مفعل فعل لا تفعل. فاعل يفاعل فعالا مفاعلة مفاعل مفاعل فاعل لا تفاعل. أفعل يفعل إفعالا مفعل مفعل أفعل لا تفعل. Scale 5. تفعل يتفعل تفعلا متفعل متفعل تفعل لا تتفعل. The 6th scale. تفاعل يتفاعل تفاعلا متفاعل متفاعل تفاعل لا تتفاعل. The 7th scale. انفعل ينفعل انفعالا منفعل منفعل انفعل لا تنفعل. 8th scale. افتعل يفتعل افتعالا مفتعل مفتعل افتعل لا تفتعل. 9th scale. افعل يفعل افعلالا مفعل افعل لا تفعل. 10th scale. استفعل يستفعل استفعالا مستفعل مستفعل استفعل لا تستفعل. Right, those are skills. We actually now in our last 2 Nahwu lessons we learned the mazid fi part of the scale as well. Sorry, not the mazid fi part, the majhul part of all of those scales as well, right? If you want, you don't have to do this if it's going to confuse you, but if you want to incorporate saying those mazid fi, why am I saying mazid fi? Those majhul verbs into your mazid fi scales, you can do that, and that's how we normally learn the scales as well. That's how I personally learned the scales, where we say, if I take the second verb, for example, I would say fa'ala, past tense, yufa'ilu, present tense, both of those are ma'lum. So fa'ala, yufa'ilu, taf'ilan, mufa'ilun, the ismul fa'il. Then I would say the majhul, fu'ila, yufa'alu, taf'ilan, mufa'alun. So it's the majhul past tense, majhul present tense, masdar, and then the ismul maf'ul, and then the amr and nahi, fa'il la tufa'il. So it would sound something like this. فعل يفعل تفعيلا مفعل فعل يفعل تفعيلا مفعل فعل لا تفعل فاعل يفاعل فعالا مفاعلة مفاعل فوعل يفاعل فعالا مفاعلة مفاعل فاعل لا تفعل. If it's going to confuse you, don't worry about it. You must just theoretically at least know the majhul forms of those scales so that you can identify them, and you can understand them. You can basically categorize them correctly in your minds and understand them بإذن الله تعالى. All right, we get back to our Nahwu. We, based on the nature of what Nahwu is, looking at how words interact with each other, how the cases or the hals affect their, or the functions in the sentence affect their hal, and that's the end casings. We were thus looking at the different halat and the functions fulfilled by those halat, right? And we created for ourselves a list of halat, a list of functions that get fulfilled by halatul raf. We said it's the fa'il, the naibul fa'il, the mubtada, khabar, ismu kana wa akhawatuha and its sisters, and the khabaru inna wa akhawatuha. We've covered thus far the fa'il and the naibul fa'il, right? For homework, we were just basically completing the exercise on, actually no, we had already completed the exercise on the naibul fa'il. Right? And we're just going through some of those examples. Today we're supposed to move on to the khabar. I ask you to read some of that for homework. I do have the answers of these things prepared already, right? There's just one or two changes that I need to make. Just so that I don't give you an answer sheet with mistakes in, but it will be sent to you shortly, inshallah. Right. So we looked at the fa'il. We said, how do we look for the fa'il? Whenever we see an active form verb, what do I mean by active form? When I see a ma'loom verb, then I know that I must look for the fa'il, right? I must look for the fa'il. How do I look for the fa'il? I use ili. I use that system that we created for ourselves, ili. So I look either at the end of the verb or to the left of the verb or inside the verb. I don't look anywhere else. That's the only places that I look. And then in that manner, I identify my fa'il. I don't look on the right of it. I don't look anywhere else. I don't look for a word in any other hal. I look for a word in halatul raf. Right? I do recognize though that there's some words that despite being in a specific hal, they don't show that hal. So I'm cognizant of that it could be a mabni word. I'm very cognizant of that. But that doesn't throw me off. I still look for my fa'il in exactly the same way. However, when I move on and I go to a sentence wherein there isn't a ma'loom verb, I don't find a ma'loom verb. What I do find though is I find a majhul verb, a passive form verb. What do I do then? I'm merely seeing that passive form verb. I know that I must not look for a fa'il. I must not look for a fa'il. Why? Because the definition of this passive form verb is that there will be no fa'il mentioned. So what do? I instead look for ismul maf'ul, right? But this ismul maf'ul got upgraded. He's upgraded in hal. He's now in halatul raf, and he's given a new name. His title is upgraded. We no longer call him a ismul maf'ul. Sorry, not the ismul maf'ul. We no longer call him a maf'ulun bihi. We call him a naibul fa'il, a substitute for the fa'il. How do I look for this guy? Well, since he's a substitute for the fa'il, I look for him in exactly the same way that I look for the fa'il. I look for him in exactly the same way that I look for the fa'il. Ili. Either it's at the end of the verb, or to the left of the verb, or inside the verb. Right? But the first thing we needed to know, in order to actually identify that, we needed to know the forms of the majhul verb. We needed to know what the majhul verb looks like, so that I know when I have a majhul verb in a sentence, right? So let's just go through that quickly. I want everybody to say that, just so that's fresh in our minds. Right? We said, I'm just going to say the fi'l mudari' and the fi'l madi of the majhul form. So on the first bab, it's fu'ila yuf'alu. On the first bab, it's What's happening here? On the first verb, it's فُعِلَ يُفْعَلُ. The second verb, will it be? فُعِلَ يُفَعَّلُ. Third verb, فُوعِلَ يُفَاعَلُ. Fourth verb, أُفْعِلَ يُفْعَلُ. Fifth verb, تُفُعِّلَ يُتَفَعَّلُ. Sixth verb, تُفُوعِلَ يُتَفَاعَلُ. Seventh verb, أُنْفُعِلَ يُنْفَعَلُ. Eighth verb, أُفْتُعِلَ يُفْتَعَلُ. Ninth verb, we don't really use this one, but if you must, أُفْعِلَ يُفْعَلُ. 10th verb, أُسْتُفْعِلَ يُسْتَفْعَلُ. Could these answers be sent via WhatsApp, please? Yes, the answers will be sent via WhatsApp. Like, there's just some errors that I needed to rectify. Like, for example, if you see a نزلنا عليك كتابا, yeah, the answer is written. We sent the book upon you. Should be a book, right? There's some small errors like that that I just want to change before sending it to you. بإذن ta'ala. Right, we then went through the examples, we went through the answers of these questions last week. We had some questions pertaining to them. Tell me, before we move on to the next thing, are there any more questions? Any last questions on it? Any specific one that you needed further clarification on?
Assalamualaikum. Could we please go over number 12? I did it some time back, so I can't remember what I did, but I made a note that I need to go back to that, please.
Okay. Bismillah. Number 12. قالوا نؤمن بما أنزل علينا. قالوا نؤمن بما أنزل علينا. So firstly, where is the majhul verb in the sentence? Is it قالوا?
No.
No. Okay. Is it نؤمن?
نؤمن. Yes.
Check. Remember, for present tense,
Oh.
it must have for present tense, it must have a fatha on the second root letter.
Maybe that's what I was confusing. Okay.
Yeah, so this one is actually here. This is أفعل يفعل. This is a standard fourth verb. أأمن يؤمن. Instead of أأمن, we say آمن, but that's what it is. آمن يؤمن. If you go down the scale, you'll get to نؤمن. This is not majhul. أفعل يفعل. So where is the majhul verb?
It's a unzila.
Unzila. There we go. That is my majhul verb. But also on the fourth verb, أنزل ينزل, but this is now unzila. Starts with a dhamma and the second root letter as a kasra. Right? أنزل علينا. أنزل علينا. So that is my majhul verb. What does it mean? What does it translate as? قالوا, they said, نؤمن, we believe, bima, in that which. Now that which is a ismul mawsul again. Remember we came across that ismul mawsul last week when I told you, when you find this ismul mawsul, then what can you do? What's a shortcut then? What's the shortcut with that ismul mawsul? Give me a second. Can you guys hear that? Let me just see if I can turn down the volume quickly. Did the volume go down?
It's not bad, Maulana. It's very soft.
Okay. If only it were that easy to turn down that volume. But anyways, yeah, so they said نؤمن, we believe bima, in that which is the ismul mawsul, right? Remember, what did I tell you about the ismul mawsul last week? When you have a word like that, that means that which, those who, you need something that comes after it that qualifies it, right? So if you have a verb after it, most of the time you hardly even need to look for the verb. You know, almost automatically, you know the verb is going to be inside it, referring back to that word, right? So they said, we believe in that which unzila, it was revealed, alayna, upon us. Now, if I want to do it the long way, I can do it the long way. That's not a problem. So what would I do then? I will say unzila. Is there anything at the end of it? No. Unzila is the standard form. Then I look to the left. Well, on the left, there's only a harful jar and ismul majroor. It's not that. Then I look lastly inside it. Inside it is a huwa. That's correct. And what does that huwa refer to? It refers back to the ismul mawsul ma, that which was revealed or sent down upon us.
Shukran, Maulana. That was a bit easier than expected. Shukran.
And okay, number 10 as well. أجعلنا من دون الرحمن آلهة يعبدون. Right, so first let's read through the verse quickly. Where is the majhul verb? Makes the sentence a question. جعلنا is the verb. That's first verb, normal verb. من دون الرحمن, no verb there. آلهة is a noun, no, it's not that. يعبدون. Does it start with a dhamma? Yes, it does. It's present tense, right? Does it have a fatha on the second root letter? يعبدون. Yes, so that's my majhul verb. So now let's go through it. جعلنا. جعل means to make. جعلنا, we made. أجعلنا, have we made. من دون الرحمن, literally besides Ar-Rahman, besides the most merciful. آلهة, a deity, a god. No, sorry. Ali has a plural. Can I please share the screen? I think my screen is shared. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, Maulana, we can see it.
Okay. I think I must maybe just swipe to the right or something. And it should show up there somewhere, or maybe to the left. Once it's on from a phone. Right? So, أجعلنا, have we made, من دون الرحمن, from beside the most merciful, آلهة, gods or deities, يعبدون. يعبدون. They, so we have the verb here, عبد يعبد. عبد يعبد means to worship. So عبد يعبد means to be worshipped. يعبدون, they are worshipped. If I go down the scale, عبد يعبد يعبد يعبدون. They are being worshipped. So if I use ili, how would it be? First, I look on the end of it. Is there something on the end? Yes, there's una. So that's my naibul fa'il. Have we made from beside the most merciful gods, yu'abaduna, gods, they are worshipped. They are being worshipped. Now, there's an implied who there, gods who are being worshipped. Gods who are being worshipped. The translation is slightly incorrect there as well, right? Gods who are being worshipped. So this is my majhul verb, and the naibul fa'il is the una at the end. Right. Okay, we move on. inshallah. Tell me, in the PDF that you have, right, is 1.3 khabar or mubtada?
خبر ولا
Khabar. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna go according to the version that you have, right? So 1.3 is khabar. You may think in your mind, okay, more normal to do mubtada first because the mubtada comes first in the sentence. Yes, that is how Mullah Khalil had it in one volume or one edition of this book, but then it was changed, right? Because there's two lessons on the mubtada. So we have the mubtada and the delayed mubtada as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the khabar first, inshallah, right? Going to do the khabar first. So let's go through some things we know about the khabar. What do we know about the khabar? In what kind of sentence does a khabar feature?
جملة اسمية.
جملة اسمية. Correct. جملة اسمية جملة اسمية. What's a جملة اسمية?
A noun-based sentence.
A noun-based
something.
Right? A noun-based sentence or a nominal sentence. It's a sentence that starts with a noun. Right? Or a harf also at times, but yeah, it could start with a harf as well. But by and large, it starts with a noun. That kind of sentence, when we learned our simple Nahwu last year, what did we say? It comprises two parts. What are those two parts?
مبتدأ and خبر.
Mubtada and the khabar, right? And the sentences that we learned, or the examples that we used to illustrate that, were generally very simple examples, right? The mubtada is one word, the khabar is one word. Ar-rajulu tawilun, as is the example that we have here. Ar-rajulu tawilun. Very simple. What's the mubtada? Ar-rajulu. What's the khabar? Tawilun. Ar-rajulu tawilun. The man is tall. The sentence comprises of two words. There's a mubtada, a definite word, a khabar, indefinite word, and there's a is or are implied between them. Right? We said that, we would have learned last year that both the mubtada and the khabar are in halatul raf. Halatul raf, correct. Right. And what is the mubtada? What is the khabar?
Mubtada is the focus of the sentence.
Right? Mubtada is the focus of the sentence. In normal English grammar, we call it the subject of the sentence, right? And the khabar is what?
The information.
Literally, khabar means information or news. It's something that tells us, or it's a part of the sentence that tells us something about the focus of the sentence, about the subject of the sentence, right? Or you can, in other words, we can call it the predicate as well. Predicate. So we have the subject and the predicate. In simpler terms, many people might have learned English grammar very, very, very long time ago. So the mubtada is the main thing, the subject, the topic, the focus of the sentence, what we want to talk about. And the khabar is what we want to say about that thing, about that subject, about that focus, right? So let's see what we have here. The entity or being or thing, which is the focus of the sentence, is called the mubtada. It will most often be first in the sentence and be definite and in the state of rafa. That much we learned already last, right? The information or the khabar, right? The information about the focus of the sentence is called the khabar. In this case here, the man was the mubtada, the focus. And what is it that we want to say about the man? We want to say that he's tall. Therefore, this construction often takes the form something is something. Right? The man is tall. The people are happy. Generally takes that form, right? As a focus or a subject, implied is or are, and then something about him. Now we're going to add some meat to our understanding of that. So tell me, does anybody have any issues with that much of the Jumla Ismiya? That we learned last year already, right? But it's no problem if anybody does have an issue with it. We just iron it out, inshallah. We take the opportunity to iron it out. No, okay. Now we're going to move on to, analyzing it a little bit more in depth. A little bit more in depth. You see, it's very easy. It's very easy when the sentence is like that. It's just comprised of two words, one definite, one indefinite. Then we just know if they're both nouns, the first one is the mubtada, second one is the khabar, finished. As long as there's not any one of our other murakkabat, whatever. That wasn't rocket science. Might have taken getting used to, but not overly difficult. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add a level of complexity to that. We're going to say that the khabar, it doesn't always come just as a single word. The khabar, why are we saying the khabar here? Because we're focusing on the khabar. We're not focusing on the mubtada. We're keeping the mubtada the same, one word. Right? The mubtada is staying the same. But now the khabar, it can take different forms. It can take different forms. And that has some effect on the sentence. That affects the sentence in some way. The one that we know is when the khabar is a singular word. Not a singular word, rather, I should say, but rather a single word. Whether it's plural or whatever, it doesn't matter, but it's one word. Right? And we may know that, we may think that we know the complexity regarding that, because we might have seen it as a mudaf, mudafun ilay. We might have seen it as a mawsuf, sifa construction. But all of that actually fall under the category of the khabar being one word. Right? So be with me. Let's look at some examples of that. I'm focusing on this section in the book. The khabar can take on the following 5 forms. Right? Here are the 5 forms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't normally write that untidy. Okay. Right. The one that we learned is when the khabar is one word. When I can look into my sentence and say, oh, wait, I don't know. Okay, this word is my mubtada, this word is my khabar. Let's look at some examples of that. The first example that we have is ar-rajulu tawilun. Ar-rajulu tawilun. What does that mean?
The man is tall.
The man is tall. Good. My mubtada is the man, my khabar is tall. Okay. What if I say ar-rajulu imamul masjidi, as I have here? Ar-rajulu imamul masjidi. What's the mubtada?
المبتدأ is الرجل.
الرجل, right? And the khabar?
It will be the Imam al-Masjid.
Okay, but if we were to analyze the sentence, if we were to analyze each word in the sentence, is there a single word that we will call the khabar?
Imamu.
Imamu.
Imam.
There we go, that's correct. So this word imamu, yeah, will be my khabar. And when we go to al-masjidi, what will we call that? Imamul masjidi.
We say khabar too.
What kind of construction is that? Imamul masjid.
مضاف إليه.
Mudaf mudafun ilay, correct. So what are we going to call that? Mudaf and then the? Mudafun ilay. Right. So ar-rajul is my mubtada, imamu is my khabar, and al-masjidi is just mudafun ilay. And it is just attached to that word imam. Yeah. Essentially what I want to say in the sentence is that the man is the imam. Imam of what? Imam of the masjid. So that mudafun ilayh is just attached to the one word, but there is a one word in the sentence that I call my khabar. Let's look at another example of it. Don't have it typed here. I'm just going to write one. Ar-rajulu الرجل طويل الشعر. طويل is long, شعر is hair. طويل الشعر. How do you translate that?
What is the last word mean?
شعر, hair. Basically, you translate this: the man is long of hair or long head. Maybe that isn't the best sentence to use. Let's look at another one. الولد الولد طالب المدرسة. What does that mean? الولد, the boy is
The boy is a student. Is a student of the masjid, of the madrasa.
Yeah. The boy is the student of the school. The boy is the student of the school. But I'm wiping this way. If I were to look at the sentence, what's my mubtada?
Al-waladu.
Al-waladu. What is my khabar?
Talibu.
Talibu. And what is my, and then the word al-madrasa is just my mudafun ilay. But there's one word in the sentence that I call my khabar. Right. So that's the first example that we have. We have sentences wherein the khabar is one word. There might be something attached to it, but essentially the khabar is one word. Right? And that is a category of its own, where we say there's a visible khabar that is in halatul raf. There is one word that gets put into halatul raf because it is the khabar. Right? Like you can see in the sentence, ar-rajulu imamu al-masjidi, al-waladu talibu al-madrasati, al-rajulu tawilu al-sha'ri. there's one word that gets put into halatul raf because it is the khabar. Right. Then there are 4 other forms where the khabar is not just one word. The khabar is a different type of construction. Either it's a harful jar in ism al-majrur. So if I say ar-rajulu fil bayti, where's my mubtada? Ar-rajulu. Where's my khabar? Anybody?
في البيت.
The whole thing, fil bayti, that's my khabar. But is there any word in there that's in raf?
No.
No. There's no word in there that's in halatul raf. So there isn't a single word that gets halatul raf because it's the khabar. Rather, that whole construction is in, it's like the construction is in the place of the khabar, which is in raf. But there's no word that's in raf there. How am I going to analyze it? I'm going to say fi harful jar al-bayti, the house, it's ismul majroor. But then I can say the whole harful jar and ismul majroor, that whole thing is in the place of the khabar. Let's look at the next one. It could be a dharf and a mudaf ilayh. Do you know what's a dharf?
Well, just on the second example, so you wouldn't say fil bayti is the khabar. You'll just say it's taking the place of the khabar.
Yeah, you could say fil bayti as a whole is the khabar. But there isn't a word that there isn't a single word. We can't call fi the khabar, nor can we call al-bayti the khabar. We can't put either of them in halatul raf' because they are the khabar. The whole construction is the khabar. Right? Yes.
So just to understand, ar-rajulu fil bayti, the man is in the house. How will I say the man in the house is tall? How do I distinguish that versus this?
Okay. So the man in the house is tall. Will essentially be like this. Ar-rajulu fil bayti tawilun. All right. But there the focus of the sentence is ar-rajulu. And the khabar, what you want to say about the man is that he's tall. Ar-rajulu tawilun. As for fil bayti, right? That is like parenthesis. It's extra information that you're giving me to identify a specific man. So that's going to be something connected to the mubtada, but we'll get there. Right? We'll get there. So that the simple part of that sentence will be the man will be the mubtada and tawilun will be the khabar. That fil bayti is just a qualifier or some extra information that you're inserting into the sentence to qualify that mubtada of yours. But we'll look at some examples of that. Inshallah. I just want to go through these so that you're able to do the homework. If you give me like 3 minutes, inshallah. The next one we have is ar-rajulu.
You're gonna take it anyway, so bismillah.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Ar-rajulu amam al-bayti. Do you know what's a dharf? A word that denotes time or place. Right? The adverb of time or place. Sometimes you can have the mubtada is a singular word, ar-rajulu. And then we have this mudafun ilayk, mudaf and mudafun ilayk construction, wherein the first word it denotes time or place. Amam al-bayti. Amama means what? Amama? In front. I was going to say, think of the imam. Where does he stand? Amam al-nas. Right? Stands in front. So amam al-bayti means in front of the house. In front of the house. Amama di. You can see it's a mudafun ilayh construction. Right? It's a mudafun ilayh construction. However, because amama is light and al-bayti is in jar. So easy to see that. But this one here is not like a normal mudaf mudafun ilayh construction, in that the first word has a specific hal. In a normal mudaf mudafun ilayh construction like here, Imamul Masjidi, that Imam didn't have any hal of its own. It could be in any hal. Whereas in this case here, because the word is an adverb of time or place, it is specifically in halatun nasb. Right? Then we have the khabar can be a whole verbal sentence. Ar-rajulu nasara al-walada. The man. It starts with a noun, so it's a nominal sentence, a jumla ismiya. But then what's the khabar? Ar-rajulu, what about him? Nasara al-walada. He helped the boy. You may, do I have more example of the dharf, especially time? Yes. I could say
يوم يقوم الروح.
يوم يقوم الروح. But as a khabar, Maulana. So I don't want to, yeah, that's a bit confusing. So let's rather go with the simple one. الكتاب وراء المكتب. الكتاب وراء المكتب. The book is وراء, behind, المكتب, behind the desk. The book is behind the desk. وراء المكتب. But as we go through the examples, inshallah, you'll see more.
Excuse me, Maulana. So in this kind of example will be the, it's not really the subject of the sentence, but it will be in front of the verb, essentially.
What's this?
On the right of the verb. The focus of the sentence will be on the right of the verb. And that's the way you know it's not the actual subject of the sentence.
In number 4?
In number
4.
Number 4, yes, that's correct.
الرجل نصر الولد. The focus of the sentence here is the man. The focus of the sentence, you see, that's a slight difference between saying nasara الرجل الولد. The focus in that sentence is the nasr, the helping. The man helped the boy, yes. That's how we translate it. But in Arabic, when I just put the dua at the beginning of the sentence, and he becomes the focus. Ar-rajulu nasara al-walada. The man, he helped the boy. So, for example, if you ask me the question, who helped the boy? The question, the focus or the emphasis there is not on the helping of the boy. The emphasis is on the who. Then I wouldn't say nasara ar-rajulu al-walada. I would say ar-rajulu nasara al-walada.
Yes.
Right? So he's in the focus of the sentence. The khabar is now a whole verbal sentence, nasara al-walada. And the last one, I'm just going through this a bit quickly. We'll revisit this next week, inshallah. I just want to do this so that you can do the homework. Ar-rajulu ummuhu tawilatun. Ar-rajulu, the man. What do I want to say about this man? Ummuhu tawilatun. His mother is tall. So now the khabar is that's a whole sentence. Ummuhu tawilatun. It's a sentence in and of itself, but it's also playing the role of the khabar for the word ar-rajulu that came before it. Now that one might be a little bit confusing, but I'm not going to get into that now, inshallah. We'll look at that again next week. What I want you to do for homework is, we have 24 examples here. Just do the first 10 for me for homework, inshallah. Right? Just do the first 12, inshallah. Then when we come to class next week, we'll work through the other 12. So what I want you to do, translate the sentences. Right? I want you to translate the sentences. But what I also want you to do is, I want you to just either identify the khabar if it's one word, right? Identify the khabar if it's one word, or if it's not one word, maybe just underline the parts of it that is the khabar. For example, in the sentence, أنتم. Okay, let me take one here. وهم لا يشعرون. Number 8. وهم لا يشعرون. What will be the mubtada? The mubtada will be hum. I'm not focused on what the mubtada is. What's the khabar? The khabar is this whole verbal sentence here. لا يشعرون. Just underline it like that for me. وهو من الكاذبين. What's the khabar? There's no single word. That's that whole thing. من الكاذبين. Right, so do that for homework inshallah, and we'll take it from there next week بإذن الله تعالى. Just the 12 examples inshallah.